Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening. This is Krystine, your host of the BeautyPro podcast. I am here with Brett Fellows, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell us who he is and what he does for our fabulous industry. I have a feeling you're going to love this. So, hi, Brett. Thanks for being
Hi,
here.
Krystine. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's nice to see your smiling face again.
Thank you.
Yes, Brett Fellows. I am a certified financial planner and certified exit planner in Charleston, South Carolina, and I own a firm called Oak Capital Advisors. But my stage name, for lack of a better term, is Unchained from the Chair. So that is what we go by for our podcasts and for our Instagram handle. So Unchained from the Chair is more appropriate, I should say.
Okay, very good. You'll have to check out that podcast. It's awesome. I love it.
Which you
So,
were on, which
which
we
I
will
was
have that.
on as
Yep,
well,
yep.
shameless plug there. So tell us, how did you, from the financial world, how did you get involved with the podcast and being with beauty and barber pros?
Yeah, so it's a great question. It started selfishly. Our business, we've always worked with small business owners, and we've kind of hit what I call a ceiling of capacity, meaning we have plenty for our business, but we got into this issue in the back office where I have a heating and air client, I have an engineering client, I have a service research client, and everybody's industry is different. And so when you're doing planning for each one of those business owners, they're all different aspects, and it's a lot of work, frankly. And so we finally said, yeah, this is not how I envision my future. So if we moving forward, I want to have every client have the same problems and every client be the same, really, just so I can scale better and just have more efficiency with our systems and operations in the back office. So we did a deep dive into our ideal client profile, and long story short, that is my client named Angie. She is a salon owner. It's a commission salon here in Charleston. Does anywhere about maybe 1.5 million. She's got 14 stylists. She's 53. She's the breadwinner. Has 2 kids, but I love her, and she does everything I say. And so we get along great. But we've done planning for her we've worked together now since 2010. We've done a financial plan for her, obviously, that paid for their kids' college, all the stuff that happens as 10 years ago. Then we got to the point where we bought her building, and now her salon is paying her rent. And we've fully implemented a full retirement plan that all of the she's fully funding for herself, but all of the stylists are now a part of, and we work with all the stylists. And now we're at the stage where she's 53. She doesn't want to do this, but for maybe 10 more years, that we are getting the next gen of talent, the office manager and the lead stylist, ownership in the company, so that they are eventually going to buy her out over the next 10 years. And I was like, so this is what I love to do. So I said, if I can have more Angies in my life, that's what I'm looking for. And so we did a deep dive and knew nothing about beauty industry at all. And this was last fall. But we hired somebody, did a deep dive into it, and just realized, oh my gosh, there's nobody from a professional standpoint, talking about financial planning, retirement planning, exit planning, tax planning for the salon owner, which was, what I was looking at. So I was really curious, and I thought maybe it's kind of this blue ocean idea. So in January, just to get started, we started Unchained from the Chair podcast, because I don't write well. I don't, not a great marketer. I can talk. That's about it. So that's the only marketing activity I like to do. So that's why we did that. And my coach said, I want as a task you to interview 50 people in the industry already, owners, educators, consultants, anybody who's in that business, just who is already doing it, and just, don't recreate the wheel, and build a network and collaborate. And so that's ultimately what led me to people like you, and the Nina Tulios of the world, and Jody Browns. And so long story short, we got part that going. And then, we're really into the education piece. So we're doing stuff with Statements Project, and with Nina Tulio, we did an event, and Commonwealth Co. we did an event. So we really like it. We really like it. I
That's
think it's a
cool.
really neat space.
I love that. I love that. And I'm so excited that you are here in this space, in this industry, because we need you. We
Yeah.
need you and people like you, because you've probably noticed already the beauty and barber industry, they're not very good when it comes to numbers, right? Quote
Right.
unquote, the money piece. We're talking retirement planning,
Yeah.
tax planning, exit strategies. Like those are like the hot tickets right now.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing consistently with those areas that beauty and barber pros just keep making? And why are they doing this all the time?
Yeah. I think, and it's not anyone's fault, I think this is a broad issue. Our psychology of money is backwards. We think that, we think that it's around math and science, when it's really not. It's all about behavior. And so there's this misnomer or imposter syndrome, like you're saying, that I found, like stylists say, oh, I didn't go to college, or I went to a technical high school, I'm not good with money. And they start out very young and they're getting money right away. So they kind of live paycheck to paycheck. So they're kind of forced into that mindset. But money, being good with money or successful with money, is all about your behavior. It has nothing to do with how smart you are. But yet we don't avoid, or we don't, we're taught not to talk about it. We were taught not to, we were never taught it, or how in the beauty schools, they don't teach you how to deal with your money. So the biggest thing I just think is, people think that, it's about math and that they're not smart enough, but it is really just not true. They just have never been given the education in a simple way to understand it, to make it easier. And ultimately what I'm saying is, the biggest issue, and you might hear me say this a lot, is we don't pay ourselves first. We pay ourselves last. Meaning profit or savings or paying down debt. We spend first and then we pay ourselves. When the equation is backwards, we should work our spending around our savings, not the other way around.
Oh, it's so good. I love that. Okay. So then what are like the top 3 things that you would tell a beauty professional, barber pro, like when they want to get their money on track, when they want to start making a profit or retirement or whatever? What would you tell them?
50, 30, 20. So
Okay. What is that?
50, 30, 20. So that means those are the percentages you should break out your net paycheck.
Okay.
So you should have a different bank account for each, literally.
Okay.
And 50% of your monies should go into bank account number 1, which basically, let's say, is your checking. And that should go towards any of your fixed costs. So like your rent, groceries, insurance, things you have to pay, utilities, things you have to pay for. Those are your fixed living expenses. The next 30% should go into a different account, probably another checking account. That will be more discretionary. So that's for your dinners out. That is for your new iPhone. That is for, just think of discretionary spending. And then the last 20 should go towards debt and or savings / retirement. So if you're in debt, the fastest way to get out of debt is to put, like I said, pay yourself first, give yourself that first 20%, and pay off your debt using that whole 20%. Once the debt is gone, then that 20% should go towards savings, like an emergency fund, or saving for retirement. If you just get used to that 20% automatically going off the top, eventually you don't need 20% for retirement. You can do 20% for a down payment on a new home or a new car or something like that. So but it's just the mindset and the repetitions of having that 20% to be used for your future. So 50 is for fixed, 30 is for discretionary, and 20 is for debt or retirement savings. And this is off of your net paycheck.
Right. So that's after all the taxes and everything that you get.
Yeah.
So when you get paid, just for my own clarity, when you get paid, the first thing you do is you pay, well, wait, you pay yourself, but
Even more,
then
even, most people, especially if you have a payroll company,
yeah.
you can set it up that way. So I have my payroll company do it. So I don't even do anything. You can tell,
What?
you can give the account number to
Yeah.
your payroll, to your employer, and they'll have your check deposited that way. I mean, it's very simple. You just have to have 3 different accounts.
That's so cool. And can you give all 3 different accounts to your
Oh,
employer?
sure. Oh,
Oh my
sure.
gosh,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
so great.
Now, if
Okay.
you don't have that, yeah, like you were saying, yeah, I get my net paycheck and then just do the math. 50% break
Yeah.
out, 50% break out, 30% break out, 20%.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
But
but as soon as I
if
get
you
my
make things easier, make things,
yeah.
let technology work for you. You don't have to
Yeah.
literally do this.
Right. But okay, but when you get your paycheck, do you take the 20% immediately and you just put that away or pay whatever debt and then you work with the other? Okay.
Yeah, because you know what
Okay.
happens if we don't.
Yeah.
If we don't, we
Yeah.
dip into, I always remember that Neapolitan ice cream like we had with kids. It was the chocolate,
Mhm.
vanilla, strawberry, they didn't touch.
Mhm.
You ideally want them to not touch. Now they're
Okay.
gonna touch and they're gonna mix, and that's
Yeah.
normal. You get, it's not, doesn't have to be so rigid, but you get the
Mhm.
idea of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, so now this is great. I wasn't expecting such a bombshell. It was great. Okay, so what's the most important trait or strength for someone to be successful with their financials, with their money?
It's, nobody likes to hear me say it, but it's savings. And
Mhm.
I always, whenever I present, one of the big things is, you know, let me challenge you to save money. And I say it's an odd
Mhm.
sentence. Is it, do people really need to be challenged to save money? And the answer is yes. But what money does is it gives you freedom, and it gives you freedom of time. So if you have an emergency fund and you're sick for 5 6 days, well, you're not concerned about anything you might miss. Or if something bad happens and you're out for 6 months and you lose your job, well, if you've got a bigger savings, well, you're going to be okay. And more importantly, let's say on the retirement side of the ledger, you can retire when you want as opposed to when you need to. You can, so it's really about savings. And
Mhm.
again, I'm only talking 20% of what
Yeah.
you make, but the earlier you do that, that's all you have to do. And that's a lot easier when, as we know, just like health or exercise, or, the
Mhm.
sooner you get started, the easier it is for you later.
Yeah.
So it's
So,
savings, to be
yeah.
honest.
And it's always the most simplest thing, that is makes the biggest difference, and we
Yeah.
complicate it because I don't know why. We're
Yep.
emotional, I guess. I don't know.
Then that goes back to the behavior thing. We make it
Yeah.
too complicated. We think it's about, again, complicated math or something, or setups. It's not that hard. It's just how you behave.
Mhm. Okay, so now when it comes to exit strategy, retirement, investing,
Yeah.
what is it that a beauty pro should go for first?
Yeah. So that's another great question. And that's a big issue, I would say, actually, present day. So in the US, you're in Florida, correct? So
Yes.
Florida is not one of the states presently. So presently, there are 10 states that's making it mandatory for small businesses to have a retirement plan. Basically, the government wants every individual to have access to a retirement plan.
Mm.
If you are a salon owner with 5 or more employees, basically,
Mhm.
um, and you don't have a retirement plan, eventually you're going to get penalized. And it's not huge. It's like $750 per person, but that could add up.
Mhm.
But regardless, it behooves you to have a retirement plan, because this is why, part and parcel, why we like this industry, or why we work with business owners. Whether you are a solo or you do have a team, you raised your hand and said, I'm not going to rely on anybody else to pay me. I'm going to make what I make. Um, so that's very brave.
Mhm.
And so for that, there's a lot of advantages for you from a planning standpoint that the average person doesn't have. And so one of those is retirement planning, meaning the average person, let's say that's working at UPS and has a 401k plan, they can save maybe 20,000, 25,000, or up to 30,000 if they're over age 50 for retirement tax advantagely. A solopreneur or a small business owner can save up to $300,000. Now, that's a big number, but if money were no object, that's a huge difference. So from a tax standpoint, from a retirement standpoint, that's huge. So I would say, back to this whole state mandatory retirement things, is getting a retirement plan implemented sooner rather than later, because that goes back to that 20%. Now, even that 20%, that's after your retirement contribution. So that's a whole nother conversation. But is establishing a retirement plan through your business as soon as you can. And that doesn't matter if you're solo or you do have a team. There's things that will benefit you the greatest because you are the owner. Therefore, you get to save more than everybody else.
Wow. Okay. And when you have this retirement plan, who do you go through? Do we go through okay, well, yes, financial advice. Okay, good. So, because I was thinking, do we go through the bank? Can you do it on your own, or do you need to hire somebody?
Yeah, like anything else, you want to have unique, you hire an accountant to do your taxes, you hire an advisor to lead you through these things, you hire an insurance person for insurance. So yeah, there are things you should know. And like, we work with the owner and their CPA, because
good.
Depending upon how much they make in a given year, specifically the owner, we may want to take advantage of it or we may not. So it's all tax driven, frankly. But yeah, you definitely want to have an advisor to walk you through that. But it's very easy once it's up and running.
Okay, so then so from what I'm hearing you say, retirement is really like the first one that you go through.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
and then
the reason is, the reason is, and I guess this is point two, is so those you have the retirement plan. Now, those monies that you put into it, those are going to be invested in the market, the stock market. And so my second thing is, when you're in the stock market, is to be an owner, not a loaner. So what does that mean? So when you are in the stock market, there's basically two things you can invest in: stocks. So what a stock means is you're buying ownership in Coca-Cola or Amazon or Tesla or Apple, and you are literally an owner of the company. So if their share price goes up, your stock goes up with it. If they pay a dividend that year, you get that dividend. You are literally an owner. And so that's what I mean, being an owner, not a loaner. The other thing is what's known as bonds. Bonds are different. So stocks or bonds. Bonds are, you literally think of a mortgage, but you're the mortgage lender. You lend money to companies or governments, and they pay you back over a period of time with interest. Now, so you see, one has more volatility, stocks, but it can go higher. Bonds they're not that, they're kind of fixed. They have a stated interest rate. But bonds, I would say, over time are more risky than stocks, because stocks, what's the beauty is, remember when we were in school, we learned about compounding interest versus simple interest. So your monies go from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64. So they compound, and that's what you want. Tax favorably, you're putting monies in pre-tax, and they're compounding over 30 years. You're going to average 10% a year. So where else are we going to average 10% on our money? The business is probably making more than that, which is awesome. But this is a secondary passive way for you to not put all of your eggs in one basket. They're not all in the salon, let's say, but it's another way for you to make money through your retirement plan. And that's what they're for.
That's so interesting. See, I always envisioned retirement plans as just a savings account in the bank. And you just, okay, that's for my retirement. I'll get to that when it's time.
Yeah.
How interesting.
So, I mean, compounding interest is huge. I don't know if you've heard this question. Would you take $1 million today? I'll give you cash, $1 million today, or I'll give you a penny that compounds for 30 days on top of itself. Which would you take? You had to pick
Oh,
one.
wow. I've never heard that question before. And if I'm being totally honest, I probably would take the $1 million today.
Yeah, no brainer, right?
Yeah.
A compounding penny works out to $10.3 million if it compounds on itself over 30 days. So now
Wow.
that's an extreme. I'm just trying to show you an extreme, but
Yeah.
that's what compounding interest does. So your $10,000 that you put into a retirement plan is going to be $20,000 in 7 years without you putting any money into it. And so your monies should double. And so that's what happens. They start to make monies on top of one another. And that's the beauty of it. It's fascinating. I can't tell you, having
Yeah.
been in this business for 25 years, to see somebody with $100,000 20 years ago now have $1 million, just because they behaved right and they kept adding to it and they left it alone.
Wow. And this is all just retirement. This isn't anything else that we're talking about.
Right.
Holy cow. And that is a struggle right now that a lot of stylists, estheticians have. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yes.
But it all goes back to, we don't pay ourselves first. So that's why
Yeah.
nobody's doing it. And that's my intention in this industry, is to be the educator and be the subject matter expert, to get to, to ring that bell,
Mhm.
to say, we all have to answer the question, is my money going to outlive me, or am I going to outlive my money? Right?
Mhm.
We all have
Mhm.
to answer that question. We're not going to work forever.
Mm-mm.
So what are you going to do? What's the
Right.
answer? So we
Yeah.
have to be doing something. And back to the original point, you're very brave for going out on business by yourself. Let's take advantage of that for the
Mhm.
next 20, 30 years. So back to exit planning. Exit planning
Mhm.
means, it's basically synonymous with retirement. There's two things you can
Okay.
do. You're going to leave your business at one point in time. That's inevitable. So do you want to exit to retirement plans that you have saved? Or do you want to exit? Yes, you might have some retirement plans, but do you also want to sell your business?
Mhm.
Because again, your business is something that has equity. Even if it's only worth 100,000, 500,000, a million, everybody's different. Those are two different ways to exit, but you have to plan for that, just like you have to plan for retirement.
So when it's time to sell a business,
Yes.
what are some things that the seller needs
Yeah.
to have in place?
So that's a great question too. Like anything, you need time.
Mhm.
And because what the time does is that establishes, okay, here's where I am today. And what we do is we say, okay, you're here today. First off, when do you want to stop? And then that's a line in the sand. Okay, we can use that. Then how much are you saving in retirement or not in your business? And so I can factor out, okay, let's say that's $1 million when you retire. And then the other end of the equation is, okay, what's the business worth?
Mm.
Guess what happens 90% of the time when I ask a salon owner what their salon is worth?
Oh my goodness.
They have no idea. I have no idea.
They have no idea, or they probably say, "Oh, it's worth this," and it's
Right.
not even close.
It's just some number in the clouds.
Yeah.
But when
Oh.
I say, how much money do you have in your bank account, or how much money do you have in your IRA, everybody knows that number, but which is crazy. I'm like, your business could be worth $1 million. We don't know. It may not, but we don't know. Why don't we know? So we actually figure out what their business is worth. So we know what their business is worth today. We
Mhm.
know what their non-business assets are today. Then we just look at, what are they going to be 10 years from now or 20 years from now when you want to leave?
Mhm.
And then, is that enough? If Krystine said, I want $3 million, the salon's worth $1 million, my other assets are worth $1 million, we're $1 million short.
Mhm.
Well, then, okay, well, now we have 10 years to figure out, how do we fill that gap? You can save more, or you can make the salon bigger and better. You can scale it to make it worth more 10 years down the road. I don't care which one it is. I just want to
Mhm.
get you to that number.
Right.
But that's really what we help clients ultimately get to from an exit planning standpoint. So that's what the thing they need to know is, when do they want to leave and how much do they need? And then the
Mm.
third part of that is, who do they want to leave it to? Do they just want to shut it down and retire, or do they want to try to sell it? So those are the
Yeah.
three universal questions.
Is this different for, let's say, a solopreneur, like an esthetician who's just working on her own in a room?
No, I mean, as I said, it's synonymous with retirement planning. So in
Okay.
that essence, we may not be selling anything, but
Okay.
it's still the same math equation. I still need to find
Okay.
out, here's where you are, here's what I think we'll have at whatever age. How do we fill in the gap if there is a gap?
Okay. All right. This
If
is
you're a
very
business owner, the difference is how much can we use the business as future assets if we sell it.
okay. Okay. And then here is a question that I personally have always been very curious about, but I never know how to research it, I guess. So I have heard of salons that their most experienced stylists and things, they are shareholders,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Okay.
So how is that work? Like, is there a boss? Are they all the same boss? Is it kind of like Publix, a grocery store chain where everybody has like a say in the company? Like, how does that work?
So, like in this instance with my client Angie, um, so what we're doing with her, so she has what's known as an S corp,
Mhm.
as her filing, meaning she's a corporation, and you have, let's say, when you form yourself as an S corp, you get 100 shares of stock.
Mm, okay.
Now, when it's just like for me or for you, I own all 100 shares.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at some point in time, let's say for Angie, she wants to give some of those shares to her lead stylist or to her manager. Well, we have to figure out what the business is worth, and that's what we do. Is okay, it's
Okay.
X amount of dollars, and with their accountant, we say, okay, it's worth worth $100,000. So each share is worth, $1,000, and so then you can gift shares to those people,
Okay.
or you can have them buy in. You know what it's worth, and you can say, okay, lead stylist, you can buy in, buy 5% over the next 5 years, and this is how much it costs. You can offer discounts, all different things. So
Uh,
there's ultimately they're getting ownership in that company.
so is there like a kind of like business structure, like with commission salons or booth rental or hybrid, that this works out to be a shareholder salon,
Yeah,
I guess?
yeah, it depends. It really depends on what you want. Meaning,
Okay.
there's no sense having shareholders
Mm-hmm.
if you just want to shut it down and get out.
Mm.
There's no sense in having shareholders if you want to sell it to a competitor or someone else. The only reason you want to have shareholders, and I probably should have said it this way in the beginning,
Mm.
is if you want to transfer the business to somebody internally, like a
Okay.
family member or a key
Okay.
employee. Otherwise, you really have no need to give ownership of your company to anybody else.
Right. But this is something for the long term. This is like legacy building, really.
Right. So, like in
Okay.
this, my client Angie, her
Yeah.
people are buying in. So she's selling her equity, she's selling her salon very slowly over time. And so eventually they're going to buy more and more and more. Every share they buy is one less share Angie owns, but she's getting paid for it.
That is so cool. Okay. So like does she have like a meeting? Be like, "Okay, who wants these shares
Well,
today?"
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's a
Okay.
lot that goes into it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that's something that they would have to discuss with you in a
Oh, yeah.
okay, okay. Okay. And then what happens when all of these lead stylists all have a share and she's no longer there?
The
Then
lead stylists own the company. Now,
whoa.
you wouldn't want 10 lead stylists to own a company.
Okay,
You
yeah,
would
that's what I'm
really,
saying. Like
yeah,
like is it a
you
board
would
of
really want,
directors now?
no, you would up front, you would really need to decide, okay, I want to sell this to Krystine, or I want to
Oh,
sell this
okay.
to Krystine and her mom. It's really only
Okay.
going to be one or two people, frankly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I was already like, oh my goodness. Then you have a board of directors and then you got to figure
No, 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 you don't want that. That's as much of a nightmare as you
as
dreamt it would
as
be.
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great. Good to know.
yeah. No, you're
All
really
right.
just picking one or two key employees.
But at the end of the day, it sounds like, yeah, you can do all these things, but no matter what, you need to have an awesome CPA and an awesome financial advisor, and you need to be educated and you need to know the bottom line. You need to know the money.
Right, right. And
Okay.
it's no difference for your business versus personal. It's the same game. You just need to know your numbers. And then that's ultimately what we do. That's what we love to do. We get your business and your personal, and how do we tie those together?
Okay. So, Brett, now that you have tasted the beauty industry and you've
Yes.
seen all of the crazy, all of the exciting, all of the fabulous, what is a lesson that you have learned that you want everybody, the entire world, that needs to learn the same lesson? What is it?
That's a good question. I would say that your business is better than you think. I've heard too many people as I started, I heard, this is a tough business. It's there's not a lot of money in it. There's a lot of overhead, product and all that. And I have found that that's not true. A healthy business has about a 20% profit margin. Okay. And I had always heard that salons only do maybe 5, 6, 7. But I think that is complete false. I have seen 20, I've seen 30% profit margins in salons. So to hear that this is not a profitable business and I can't make a ton of money, or mine won't be worth anything to sell someday in the future, I don't think that that's true.
Oh my goodness, that's very interesting. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we're coming to the end of our time together. So what is one question you wished I asked, and what would you have said or answered?
Okay. Let's see. What have we not talked about? How about, why hasn't anybody talked about this to your industry before?
I love that. Yeah. Why do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, again, it's been low barrier to entry for people to become stylists, to become professionals, and it's very dislocated, meaning it's run by each state. There's no network that ties it all together. And I think it's just very disjointed. But what I have found, and it's what I do think more, you're starting to see like small business CPA or guild insurance. You're starting to see more and more financial organizations come in, I think, because I do think that money, especially coming out of COVID, and I think that's probably what it is. This is a bigger issue. We have to get a little bit more serious about our planning, and is it commission or is it booth renters, and that whole debate. But I think either can work. I think people are getting smarter about their money. It's hard to find the education, and hopefully that gets more and more. Yeah. But I do think that that's coming. I think it wasn't before because it was so fractional, and kind of the things were pretty good and you can make money fast. But my friend Missy Jane, one thing I heard early was, she said, I've been in this for 20 some odd years. She's like, I've never been to a stylist retirement party.
Oh, wow.
And so I think that's why people never really gotten into it in the past, but I think that's not the case anymore.
No, my goodness, my heart broke, but at the same time, it's so exciting because the industry is changing, and I feel like you're an amazing force behind that. You are definitely spearheading this. And it's very exciting for this future.
I think so.
That we are all creating.
So I think so.
Oh my goodness.
And it's a reality. I mean, we have to, so why not make it fun and, learn about it.
And it's very interesting how COVID really has totally shifted everything.
I think we all learned that, we're really not in control. This could stop on a dime, and we have no control over that. So getting a little bit more control, I think, is what has changed the mindset.
Okay, so now how can people get in contact with you? What should they bring with them if they do want to get in contact with you?
Yeah. Now, the easiest way is Unchained from the Chair. So whether it's our podcast or our website is unchainedfromthechair.com. You can literally, my schedule is literally on the website. So you just Calendly, you can schedule with me there. And what do you need? You need absolutely nothing. first call is really just about, what's going on in your world, what's important about money to you, and, can I even help, that sort of thing. So
Should they
just
have should they have done some money mindset work before they
no,
see you?
no,
Okay.
that's my job. That's my job, is
Okay.
to walk you through that. All I
Okay,
need is
good.
somebody who says, I don't want to deal with this, but I want help.
Oh, good.
That's all you have to have.
Good. All right. Well, I will have your website. Do you have any links that I can?
Unchainedfromthechair.com. Yep, we'll have that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we will have
Yep.
that in the show notes, and feel free to reach out to Brett. This has been so amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I am
Thank you, Krystine.
blown
Appreciate it.
away. Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. All right, until next time.
Take care.